Story is titled The Silent Fog. The fog was thick in Haddonfield. That Halloween night, the air heavy with anticipation. The streets were still, as if the town itself was holding its breath. In the distance, the faint sound of creaking swing echoed from the playground, broken only by the occasional rustle of the wind through the dead leaves. It had been a long time since anyone had heard the whispers of Michael Myers. He had vanished into the shadows of the night, his legend sinking deep into the past. But the town of Haddonfield would never forget the terror he had brought. Tonight, though, something was different. A figure emerged from the dark, its form particularly obscured by the mist, wearing a black robe and a menacing white mask. The figure was anything but a typical Halloween reveler. Ghostface, the slasher who had haunted the streets of Woodsboro, had somehow found himself here in this cursed town far from his usual domain. He didn't know how he got here. One minute he was chasing down a teenager in Woodsboro, and the next he found himself standing in the middle of an unfamiliar street. His breath quickened, a mix of confusion and excitement bubbling inside him. This wasn't Woodsboro. This wasn't his game. No, this was something far more interesting. He heard footsteps in the distance, slow but deliberate, like the thud of a distant drum. Ghostface's eyes darted around, searching for the source. The sound was coming closer, like something or someone was stalking him. The very air itself. Then he saw him, Michael Myers, tall, silent, and ever looming. Michael stood at the end of the street. His face was a blank, pale mask, like an emotionless void. His dark jumpsuit clung to his broad frame, and his hand was, and in his hand, the unmistakable shape of a butcher's knife gleamed under the dim light of the street lamps. Ghostface cocked his head to the side, his knife held loosely in one hand, his other hand tracing the outline of his mask. A game, another game. He would have to adapt, but he was always quick to improvise. "Hey, big guy," Ghostface called out, his voice dripping with mockery. "You lost or just really bad at this whole stalking people thing?" Michael didn't respond. He never did. Instead, Michael stepped forward, his slow, methodical pace unbroken. There was no fear in him, only a singular drive, a relentless force that crushed everything in its path. Ghostface felt a chill run down his spine, an unfamiliar feeling for him, but then a chuckle bubbled up in his throat. This was going to be fun. Without warning, Ghostface lunged forward, slashing Michael with quick and erratic movements, trying to provoke him into a reaction. Michael moved just as swiftly, his knife slicing through air with deadly precision. The two masked figures danced around each other, their blades clashing and the metal ringing through the fog. For a moment, Ghostface thought he might have the upper hand. His speed and agility were his greatest assets. His erratic style kept Michael on edge, but as the two circled each other, it became clear Michael wasn't playing a game. He wasn't here to outwit Ghostface, he was here to kill. Ghostface's confidence wavered. Michael's relentless drive seemed to grow with every move. The masked killer's strikes were precise, methodical, each one aiming to wear Ghostface down. Unlike the teenagers Ghostface typically hunted, Michael was like a machine, a force of nature, unstoppable, unrelenting. Suddenly, Michael lunged, his hand grabbing Ghostface by the throat, lifting him off the ground with terrifying ease. Ghostface gasped, his gloved hands clawing at Michael's grip. The killer's icy, unfeeling eyes stared into his own, and for the first time in his life, Ghostface felt the sting of vulnerability. But just as quickly, Michael had grabbed him before he was thrown aside, crashing into a nearby car. Ghostface struggled to his feet, blood dripping from his wounds, but there was no time to recover. Michael was already moving for the kill. You think you can outsmart me? Ghostface rasped, clutching his side. I'll show you a game you won't forget. But Michael, without saying a word, raised his knife. Ghostface, thinking quickly, grabbed the nearest object, a discarded rock, and threw it, hitting Michael in the face. The blow didn't seem to faze him. Michael's head tilted slightly, like a predator studying its prey. Ghostface, realizing he was outmatched, turned and ran into the night, his heart pounding in his chest. But Michael Myers was relentless, and in this universe, Ghostface was another victim, waiting to be claimed by the darkness. The end.